Have you ever noticed how people instinctively turn away from anything that feels uncomfortable, even when it's true? It's almost as if modern society has built an emotional warning system that goes off the moment reality becomes inconvenient. And in many ways, it has. Today, the truth isn't rejected because it's wrong. It's rejected because it threatens the illusion of comfort that holds so many people together. The strange thing is that comfort was never meant to be a worldview. It was meant to be a state of rest. But somewhere along the way, society began treating comfort as a destination, a purpose, even a right. We stopped asking, "Is this true?" and started asking, "Does this make me feel safe?" This shift, quiet but powerful, created a culture where truth became negotiable, something we either accept or deny based on how it makes us feel. In a world obsessed with self-preservation, truth often feels like an attack. If a fact challenges our beliefs, threatens our identity, or disturbs our curated image of ourselves, we label it negative, toxic, or offensive. And once we do that, we give ourselves permission to ignore it. Comfort becomes a soft blanket we pull over our eyes, convincing ourselves that darkness is safer than clarity. But here's the hidden cost. Every time we choose comfort over truth, we shrink our world. We narrow our thinking. We trade resilience for fragility. And slowly, without realizing it, we become dependent on illusions to maintain emotional stability. This is why society rejects truth, not because truth is unbearable, but because we've convinced ourselves we shouldn't have to bear anything at all. You can see this everywhere, on social media, where people surround themselves with others who never challenge them, in conversations where the slightest disagreement is treated like aggression, in politics, where people choose the narrative that aligns with their feelings, not the evidence in front of them. We live inside bubbles we built ourselves and then wonder why we never seem to grow. The comfort illusion promises peace, but delivers stagnation. It tells us we're protecting ourselves, when in reality we're avoiding the very experiences that make us stronger, wiser, and more grounded in reality. And in that avoidance, the war on truth begins. Once upon a time, truth was something solid. It was something you could point to, measure, observe, and agree upon. It wasn't owned by a political group, a social tribe, or an identity category. It simply was. But in the modern age, truth has fragmented into 1,000 subjective pieces, each one shaped, edited, and filtered through personal emotion. Objectivity didn't die suddenly. It eroded. Quietly, one belief at a time, as society shifted from what is true to what feels true to me. And this shift, subtle but powerful, created a culture where truth became negotiable, something we either accept or deny based on how it makes us feel. In an era where individual expression is prized above collective understanding, where identity is seen as sacred, untouchable, and beyond questioning, and when identity becomes more important than truth, truth becomes optional. Social media amplified this shift dramatically. It created digital environments where people craft their own versions of reality, curated, aesthetic, emotionally comfortable. Within these spaces, objectivity feels harsh, uninvited, even rude. Why accept a difficult truth when you can scroll into a softer one? Why confront evidence when validation is only one click away? The result is a culture where every opinion feels like a fact, and every fact feels like an attack. In such a world, objectivity is not just ignored, it is treated as dangerous, because objective truth forces us to confront the limits of our own understanding. And that confrontation bruises the ego. It exposes our inconsistencies. It reveals where we might be wrong. And being wrong today feels unforgivable. This is why the war on reality accelerates. Objectivity demands humility, but society demands self-affirmation. And in this battle between truth and emotion, humanity increasingly chooses the one that hurts less, even if it costs us clarity, unity, and our grip on what is real. If there is one enemy truth has always struggled to defeat, it is the human ego. Not governments, not propaganda machines, not technology, but the fragile, defensive architecture inside each of us that cannot bear to be wrong. This is where the war on reality becomes personal. Because while society may reject truth collectively, the battle begins within the individual. The ego is the part of us that needs to feel intelligent, consistent, justified, admirable. It's the inner storyteller that writes history in our favor, edits mistakes out of the narrative, and reshapes memory to protect our self-image. So when truth enters the room, the ego reacts as if it has encountered a threat, not a revelation. Truth by its nature disrupts illusions. It exposes contradictions. It forces us to see the gap between who we think we are and who we actually are. And this is the exact moment the ego launches its defense: denial. We deny facts that contradict our beliefs. We attack people who challenge our assumptions. We cling to information that flatters us. We reject anything that exposes our flaws. In psychological terms, these are self-protection mechanisms. In everyday life, they form the foundation of a distorted worldview. But the ego doesn't fight alone. Modern culture gives it weapons. We live in a time where self-esteem is treated as sacred, where criticism is equated with disrespect, and where being wrong feels like a moral failure instead of a natural part of learning. This cultural environment makes the ego hypersensitive, unable to tolerate discomfort, and easily wounded by truth. Consider how people behave during arguments today. Most aren't trying to understand. They're trying to win. They're not searching for what's real. They're searching for what keeps them right. Conversations transform into battles, not because the truth is complicated, but because admitting ignorance feels unbearable. The ego would rather destroy honesty than feel exposed. And when millions of individuals operate this way, the collective mind of society begins to break down. Facts become negotiable, knowledge becomes tribal, people divide into groups that validate each other's egos rather than challenge them. Truth is no longer a shared pursuit, but a personal possession, shaped to fit the emotional needs of the moment. This explains why whole communities can reject evidence, deny proven realities, or embrace obvious falsehoods, because the ego is powerful enough to override reason. It will choose psychological survival over intellectual integrity every time. Here's the paradox. The ego thinks it is protecting us by rejecting truth, but it is actually weakening us. When we can't face our own flaws, we can't grow. When we can't admit mistakes, we can't improve. When we can't accept reality, we become dependent on illusions. And illusions, no matter how comforting, will eventually collapse. This is the ego's ultimate tragedy. It wages war on truth to protect itself, without realizing that truth is the only thing that can set it free.
If personal ego is the internal engine driving the rejection of truth, then society has built an external machine that amplifies it. A sophisticated network of institutions, corporations, algorithms, media systems, and influencers who thrive on shaping perception. Not by revealing truth, but by controlling what people believe truth should feel like. And here's the uncomfortable reality. The manipulation machine doesn't have to work very hard. Humanity's natural preference for comforting illusions creates the perfect market for manufactured narratives. Lies don't have to be convincing, they just have to be pleasant. They only need to confirm what we already want to hear. This is where the machinery of influence comes alive. Governments have long known that controlling narratives is easier than controlling people. Rewrite the story, and you rewrite society. Corporations understand that people buy feelings, not facts. Emotional marketing works because the customer's mind is easily guided. And then there are the algorithms, silent architects of the digital world, that feed us information not based on accuracy, but on engagement. And nothing engages the human mind faster than validation, outrage, and illusion. The result? Entire populations become highly manipulatable because they reject the friction of truth and embrace the ease of emotional narratives. But manipulation today is rarely blunt. It's subtle. It's packaged as entertainment, activism, inspiration, empowerment, identity, and even morality. People believe they're discovering ideas organically when in reality they're being guided toward them by systems designed to predict and profit from their emotional triggers. Think of how easily a false narrative spreads online. Not because it's logical, not because it's supported by evidence, but because it evokes the right feelings at the right time. Fear, anger, validation, hope, belonging. These emotions override rational thought, and the machine knows it. Truth struggles in this environment because truth is rarely emotionally convenient. It doesn't fit neatly into a trending hashtag. It doesn't spark dopamine. It doesn't flatter the ego. Lies, on the other hand, are built to appeal to the exact psychological weaknesses truth exposes. What makes this manipulation especially effective is that people believe they are too smart to be manipulated. This belief is, ironically, the very reason manipulation works. When individuals assume their perspectives are purely their own, they let their guard down. They stop questioning. They stop verifying. They follow narratives that feel intuitive, not realizing that intuition has been molded by years of invisible influence. And the machine doesn't just shape opinions, it shapes identities. People begin to define themselves through narratives they didn't create and don't fully understand. They repeat ideas not because they're true, but because those ideas have been socially rewarded. In a world where truth is uncomfortable and lies are profitable, manipulation becomes the default mode of culture. It fills the vacuum created by society's desire for easy answers and emotional comfort. The manipulation machine doesn't force us to reject truth, it simply offers us a version of reality that feels better. And most people, without realizing it, take the trade. When truth becomes optional, something far more dangerous begins to disappear with it: personal responsibility. Because responsibility cannot survive in a world where individuals believe reality should adjust to their feelings. Responsibility thrives only where people accept the consequences of their choices, and consequences are impossible to acknowledge without truth. This is why the rejection of reality almost always leads to the rise of blame shifting. If something goes wrong, it must be someone else's fault. If life feels difficult, someone else must be causing the difficulty. And if a person fails, the failure must be explained away by circumstances, other people, or society itself. Anything but the individual. We see this everywhere today. People treat discomfort as injustice. They treat criticism as cruelty. They treat the natural challenges of life as evidence that someone else has wronged them. And beneath it all lies a simple psychological motive. Avoiding responsibility is easier than confronting truth. When accountability fades, people create narratives that absolve them of growth. The student failing school blames the system. The adult stuck in stagnation blames society. The person sabotaging their own life blames everyone but themselves. Reality does not bend to their feelings, so they bend the narrative instead. And in doing so, they weaken their ability to face reality at all. The rise of victimhood culture is a symptom of this collapse. Being a victim, or claiming to be one, provides emotional and social benefits. It invites sympathy, it removes the weight of expectation. It offers a ready-made explanation for pain, failure, or confusion. But perhaps most dangerously, it creates an identity built entirely on what has been done to someone, not what they are capable of doing next. This mindset is addicting because it removes the burden of choice. If everything bad in life is someone else's fault, then nothing can ever be your responsibility. You never have to change. You never have to confront your darker tendencies. You never have to face the truth that many of your problems come from your own decisions. But here's the cost. The moment responsibility dies, empowerment dies with it. You cannot control a life you refuse to claim. You cannot improve a reality you refuse to acknowledge. And you cannot grow into the person you're meant to be if you're constantly rewriting the story to avoid blame. This is how society loses its strength, not through external forces, but through internal fragility. When people stop taking responsibility for their lives, they stop taking responsibility for their communities, their relationships, and themselves. The result is a culture filled with individuals who feel powerless, even though they quietly handed that power away. And as responsibility collapses, the war on truth intensifies, because the more people avoid responsibility, the more truth becomes the enemy. Responsibility requires honesty. It requires courage. It requires humility. And for many, those are burdens too heavy to carry. But without responsibility, reality has nothing to anchor it, and a society with no anchor cannot remain stable for long. If truth is sharp, cold, and often uncomfortable, then lies are warm, soft, and seductively easy to hold. And whether we admit it or not, most people are far more emotionally drawn to lies than to reality. Not because they're foolish, but because lies offer something truth rarely provides: immediate emotional relief. This is why society doesn't just tolerate illusions, it becomes addicted to them. Lies operate as a psychological drug. They soothe anxiety. They offer certainty in a world that feels chaotic. They flatter the ego, validate insecurity, and provide simple answers to complex problems. Truth demands effort, lies require nothing. Truth forces growth, lies let you stay exactly where you are. Consider how often people choose emotional narratives over factual ones. A misleading story that makes someone feel righteous will spread faster than a balanced explanation. A comforting explanation for failure will be embraced sooner than a realistic one. Even within our personal lives, we construct illusions not out of malice, but out of emotional necessity. We tell ourselves we're doing our best, even when we're not. We say we're unlucky, not unprepared. We insist people misunderstood us, when in reality, we communicated poorly. In each case, the lie temporarily protects us from discomfort. But like any addiction, the cost grows over time. The neurological component is real. Emotionally validating stories release dopamine, the brain's reward chemical. Each time we consume a narrative that tells us we're right, good, justified, or innocent, the brain gives us a small hit of pleasure. And soon the mind begins to crave these affirmations. It starts seeking information that confirms our worldview and rejecting anything that challenges it. This is confirmation bias, yes, but emotionally supercharged. The more we reinforce this pattern, the more intolerant we become of opposing viewpoints. Not because those views are wrong, but because they disrupt the emotional high we've come to expect. Truth becomes painful not due to its content, but because it interrupts our internal reward cycle. This is how the addiction spirals. People start living in ideological bubbles, not because they lack intelligence, but because stepping outside those bubbles feels like withdrawal. Algorithms feed this addiction by serving us content that mirrors our emotions. Influencers amplify it by offering narratives that make us feel seen and validated. Even well-meaning institutions use selective framing to drive a specific response. Each of these forces taps into the same psychological vulnerability, our preference for emotionally satisfying narratives. Because they know what every manipulator of perception understands. People don't follow truth, they follow stories. And the most effective stories are those that bypass logic and speak directly to fear, hope, anger, or identity. When people believe a narrative aligns with who they are or who they want to be, they rarely question it. They internalize it, they defend it, they spread it. This is why manipulation works best when it doesn't feel like manipulation. Sometimes it's ideological, shaping how people view morality, politics, or social issues. Sometimes it's commercial, influencing what people buy, wear, or value. And sometimes it's personal, convincing individuals that they're not enough, so they remain dependent on external validation. But the most powerful manipulators today are not individuals at all. They're systems. Algorithms now determine what people see, what they think about, and what they believe is important. Not because the algorithm has an agenda, but because it has a function. Maximize engagement. And nothing engages like emotionally charged content, outrage, fear, desire, tribal conflict, ego validation. This creates a feedback loop. The system amplifies emotional narratives. People consume them and feel validated. Validation strengthens bias. Stronger bias increases emotional response. Emotional response triggers more amplification. The result is a society caught in a reality distortion vortex, one that feels organic but is meticulously engineered. Yet, it would be naive to blame only the manipulators. Their power exists because people willingly outsource their perception. Many no longer question information. They skim headlines, absorb sensationalism, and trust algorithms more than their own reasoning. The convenience of passive perception becomes more attractive than the responsibility of critical thinking. And that is the secret behind every manipulation. It works because people want it to work. The illusion is comforting. The narrative is familiar. The emotional hit is immediate. Truth, in contrast, is slow, difficult, and often uncomfortable. Thus, the war on reality is not fought only by those who manipulate perception, but also by those who abdicate the responsibility of perceiving truth for themselves. The manipulators merely open the door. Society willingly walks through it. At the center of the modern war on truth lies a profound psychological shift. Reality has become negotiable, but identity has become sacred. Increasingly, people no longer ask, "Is this true?" but rather, "Does this align with who I am?" This is the moment when identity stops being a compass and becomes a cage. In the past, identity was shaped by family, culture, or personal experience. Today, it is shaped by narratives. Narratives consumed, repeated, and emotionally internalized. Instead of identity being something you discover, it becomes something you adopt, often unconsciously, through the stories you choose to believe. And because identity feels deeply personal, any challenge to those stories feels like a personal attack. This is why conversations collapse so easily. Disagreement is no longer disagreement, it is hostility. Correction is no longer correction, it is oppression. Questioning becomes an act of violence against someone's sense of self. And when identity is tied to belief, changing a belief feels like erasing your own existence. So the mind defends the belief at any cost. This phenomenon is not limited to politics or culture, it permeates every corner of life. People shape their identities through career labels, lifestyle choices, aesthetic preferences, moral stances, even the media they consume. These identity structures become filters that determine what each person considers real. If a fact contradicts identity, identity wins. This is not because people are irrational. It is because identity provides emotional stability in a fragmented world. It gives meaning, belonging, and a sense of orientation. When everything feels uncertain, identity becomes an anchor, even if it drags the person away from truth. That's why arguments rarely change minds. You're not challenging a belief, you're challenging someone's story about who they are. This identity-first mindset has devastating consequences for society. It makes nuance impossible, curiosity rare, and humility nearly extinct. People don't listen to understand, they listen to defend. They don't examine information, they search for ammunition. They don't seek truth, they seek validation of the identity they've chosen to embody. And as identity becomes more fragile, people become more outraged, more suspicious, and more emotionally reactive. Fragile identities require constant external reinforcement, which the digital world provides in the form of likes, shares, and algorithmic applause. Digital tribes emerge, each with its own language, heroes, villains, and mythology. Each tribe builds its own version of reality, one that feels true because it affirms who the members believe themselves to be. But here lies the paradox. When identity replaces reality, individuals gain emotional comfort, but lose intellectual freedom. They become prisoners of the narratives that once empowered them. The world becomes harder to navigate, not easier. Growth becomes painful, not natural. And truth becomes threatening, not enlightening. The tragedy of this shift is simple. People cling to identity to feel more real. But in doing so, they move further away from reality itself. This is not just a societal crisis, it is a personal one. Because until identity is grounded in truth rather than illusion, the individual remains lost in a self-created maze, unable to see the world clearly or themselves honestly. And a society built on fragile identities can only move in one direction, toward deeper conflict, deeper confusion, and a deeper rejection of the truth it no longer remembers how to face. In the end, the war on reality isn't fought on screens, in institutions, or in the streets. It's fought inside each of us, in the quiet moment when we choose to face the truth or hide behind the comforting stories we've built. Reality doesn't need our permission to exist, but we do need reality to survive. When society rejects truth, it drifts into chaos. People become divided, anxious, and endlessly outraged. But when individuals reclaim the courage to seek what is real, even when it's uncomfortable, the fog begins to lift. Clarity returns, strength returns, and meaning returns. The battle for truth has never been about winning arguments. It has always been about preserving sanity, dignity, and freedom. You don't have to fix the whole world. Just start by fixing the part of it you can control. Your own relationship with truth. Ask questions. Accept facts, even when they hurt. Refuse to trade reality for identity or comfort for illusion. Because in a world drowning in narratives, the rarest and most powerful act is simply to be honest. With others and with yourself. And that honesty is how reality wins.